I am Dr. Danelle Bickett-Weddle from the Center for Food Security and Public Health at Iowa State University in the United States. It is my pleasure to share with you over a decade's worth of work on behalf of hundreds of people involved in the secure food supply planning in the U.S., continuity of business during a transboundary livestock disease outbreak. A transboundary animal disease outbreak in the U.S. would have immediate and long-lasting impacts on livestock and allied industries. The United States Department of Agriculture, USDA response plans include immediate movement restrictions for animals and their products that pose a risk of disease spread. This market disruption will impact food availability, animal welfare, and the economic viability of livestock producers. Balancing disease control efforts with the risk of animal and product movement to ensure business continuity is complex. For over a decade, there has been a concerted effort in the United States to develop response plans that support disease containment while not destroying the industries being protected. If the United States were to experience a TAD outbreak, it would be considered a national animal health emergency. The USDA response plans for foot and mouth disease, classical swine fever, and African swine fever, referred to as Red Book, identify the capabilities needed and critical activities to respond to a transboundary animal disease. The highly pathogenic avian influenza response plan was put into place in 2015, 16, and 17 through various outbreaks. The goals of a TAD response are to detect, control, and contain a TAD in livestock as quickly as possible, eradicate disease using strategies that protect public health, the environment, stabilize animal agriculture, food supply, and the economy, and provide science and risk-based approaches to facilitate continuity of business for non-infected animals and their products. The USDA recognizes the importance of business continuity planning and has been contributing funding since 2007 to address this critical need. Movement restrictions of susceptible livestock species is one strategy for the control and containment of a TAD outbreak in the U.S. A 72-hour national movement standstill of susceptible species, semen, embryos, and wool has been recommended by USDA. During this time, regulatory control areas will be set up around infected premises. The infected, suspect, and contact farms will be managed under the guidance in the various Red Books or response plans. Livestock operations affected by movement controls in these control areas, yet not infected with the transboundary animal disease, will need to restart movement as soon as possible to support business continuity, as long as it's consistent with mitigating the risk of disease spread. The guidance in the secure food supply plans are for operations with no evidence of infection located in the control area to prepare to meet movement permit requirements while reducing the risk of virus spread. Numerous states have made great strides in pre-planning movement restrictions and permitting in the event of an outbreak. The secure food supply plans provide guidance on the movement of animals and products from premises with no evidence of infections for specific TADs. Egg production facility owners were the first industry sector that came forth to discuss possible options to the traditional approach of controlling diseases through stop movement. Over years of discussion, the Secure Egg Supply Plan was developed as a partnership between the USDA, states, and industry. The Secure Egg and Secure Turkey Supply Plans were successfully implemented during U.S. HPA outbreaks to allow producers that did not have infected flocks move their product or birds without spreading disease. Business continuity planning worked for those operations. These individual plans retain their industry-specific details, yet all fall under one secure poultry supply plan that aligns various surveillance testing protocols for interstate movement. For livestock affected by FMD, the Secure Milk Supply Plan was funded by USDA first because of the just-in-time movements of this perishable product. Shortly after, pork was funded by USDA to look at the movement of pigs from one production phase to another and to processing. Pork also includes planning for classical and African swine fever. The National Pork Board has also provided funding for the development and now maintenance of the Secure Pork Supply Plan. In 2014, Secure Beef was funded by USDA to look at the movement of finished cattle to harvest and movement between production phases in subsequent years. In 2019, the American Sheep Industry Association funded Phase 1 of the Secure Sheep and Wool Supply Plan. Secure Sheep and Secure Beef made great strides faster because all that had been learned to secure milk, pork, and poultry supply plans. The remainder of this presentation will focus on these secure food supply plans. The development process was based on a partnership between each industry, state, federal animal health officials, and veterinarians in academia. National and international standards for disease control were reviewed and documents were drafted. Subject matter experts were consulted throughout the process. Stakeholders were identified from the dairy, swine, beef, and sheep industries, and state and federal regulatory officials to review and improve guidance documents. Hundreds of hours of calls, review time, and writing has gone into the 4 livestock secure food supply plans. Once drafts were released, workshops, field demonstrations, tabletops, and functional exercises were conducted across the industries and states. Frequent stakeholder webinars were held to collect feedback. It's an iterative process, inserting lessons learned along the way to strengthen guidance. The secure food supply plans are only 7 to 10 pages long and can be found on their respective websites. Each provides guidance to producers, packers, processors, regulatory officials, and veterinarians for preparedness and response actions to promote business continuity to a U.S. transboundary animal disease outbreak. Each plan has industry-specific materials to support contingency planning for movement restrictions, enhanced biosecurity, and to conduct surveillance. Proactive risk assessments were done for milk and pork. Foundations for movement permitting were created for livestock premises with no evidence of infection. Participation is voluntary. The secure food supply plans for milk, pork, beef, sheep, and wool were all drafted with a similar outline for consistency in messaging to those impacted by or managing the disease outbreak. The topics found in each are outlined here on the screen. Industry or disease nuances are included where applicable. Stakeholders are encouraged to focus on preparing prior to an outbreak. Those resources are uncovered next. Prior to an outbreak, producers are encouraged to request a national premises identification number. Producers should also develop an enhanced biosecurity plan. Checklists, information manuals, and enhanced biosecurity templates are all available on the websites listed. Secure Pork has resources in English and Spanish. Producers should also have a contingency plan for movement restrictions. Prior to an outbreak, producers should prepare themselves to monitor animals for signs of the transboundary animal diseases. There are many resources available on the Secure Food website. The Secure Food Supply plans each include a permit guidance table, like the one shown on the screen, describing the various criteria that the industry, state, federal, and academic partnership created. These criteria are based on traceability, enhanced biosecurity, epidemiology with record keeping, acceptance of the animals and their products, and no evidence of infection based on surveillance. Milk and wool present some unique traits and have slightly different criteria explained in their respective plans found on their website. Permit requirements are up to the regulatory officials managing the outbreak and may change based on outbreak characteristics. The negative animal health, welfare, and economic repercussions will be significant if a transboundary animal disease is introduced to the U.S. The Secure Food Supply plans provide a framework for the livestock industries, state, and federal officials to build resiliency now. Discussions must be ongoing to discuss expectations and capabilities as it pertains to movement restrictions and what might stop. States and the USDA must continue to determine permitting capabilities. Lastly, the states must continue to refine their expectations for enhanced biosecurity, disease monitoring, and record keeping so producers are aware and able to meet those expectations. It is up to stakeholders to put effort into preparedness now and implementation to increase their likelihood of maintaining business continuity. All the resources shared can be found on the Secure Food website displayed on the screen. Thank you for your time.